They say how old are you, Mzee? They say, how old are you? How old?
Me?
Umri.
Over 80. Over 80. Over 80.
Okay.
I thought it appropriate to start today's show with that clip featuring the only man who has been president of Kenya who was not hailed from the Mount Kenya region, the late President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. History may be boring for many, but without understanding what unfolded in the Mount Kenya region when the presidency was not with them, then it is impossible to understand all the drama that is unfolding that has to do with Central Kenya and 2022. In one sentence, things were not good when the presidency left the mountain. In fact, things were so bad that those who are alive then, today, can be excused for breaking into a cold sweat just thinking of a presidency that is not from the mountain region. And that is why you've heard expressions or phrases like a safe pair of hands. You see, Central Kenya is just Central Kenya. Our brethren there are different. And I assure you, even you would have been different had you gone through the history the House of Mumbi has gone through, which started during colonial days, when the colonialists targeted the Kikuyu for marginalization. Oh yes, I have done dozens of videos on this topic right here on this channel, and I don't want to repeat myself. Instead, on today's show, I will focus on the present, the here and now, and only make very brief references to history. So those who hate history, relax. Now, yesterday, Raila Odinga met a section of leaders from Central Kenya at the coast. I believe you can see the photograph on your screens right now. Raila, over the last few months, has met leaders from Central Kenya very many times. Some of these meetings have been made public, many others have not been made public. So it begs the question, what is this that is constantly being discussed? What is it? Again and again, in meeting after meeting. I will tell you, you can be sure that what is being discussed each and every time is a strategy on how to make Mount Kenya more comfortable with a presidency that is not from the region. How to make people from this region relax and not break into a cold sweat just because the occupant in State House is not from their region. And it is extremely important to note that this is not about tribalism. No, it isn't. It is about getting the people to trust, especially after what has happened in the past. The biggest problem with the presidency of Daniel Toroitich arap Moi, the biggest problem Moi had, was that he saw the Kikuyu as a threat to his presidency. And I'm afraid it is highly likely that the next president of Kenya will view this community in the same way. You see, the House of Mumbi are very influential countrywide. They own businesses countrywide. No matter how hard you try, you cannot ignore them. They control the Kenyan economy. And this is nothing to be jealous about if you don't hail from the region. There is a very simple explanation. This community started to survive early. They were forced to survive as early as during the colonial days when they were marginalized. What happens when a community is marginalized? What happens when a community is targeted? The answer is simple. You find a way to survive. And for many of them, it was to go into business. Those early days, their land had already been taken away, their prime land, by the colonialists, the white settlers. And so the culture of biashara, business, started with the Kikuyu very early. While the rest of us started very late, some of us are starting now. There is no way we can compare ourselves to them, although we can catch up fast. Nothing is stopping anybody from doing that. Anywhere in the world, if you're a leader, you have to be very wary of the people who control the economy. Moi went overboard and destroyed businesses controlled by the Kikuyu, at the expense of the entire country. During the Moi presidency, the intelligence community were kept very busy, investigating, monitoring what the Kikuyu were doing and what they were saying. I of course appreciate the fact that it is very difficult to understand something if you are not there. When it was unfolding, Raila Odinga understands. Totally. Indeed, the BBI, which many of us hate and don't want to hear about, had a lot to do with addressing the concerns of the House of Mumbi in the country called Kenya. But let me make a spirited attempt to enable younger Kenyans on this channel to understand. Now, it is very deep in the Kikuyu DNA that as soon as they see a threat to their way of life, they circle the wagons. They quickly get together to defend themselves. They quickly respond, even if that threat is from one of their own. When you grasp what I've just said, you will fully understand where there seems to be so much animosity in the region towards President Uhuru Kenyatta. It all has to do with the economy. In one short sentence, if you want to provoke this region, simply touch their money. Interfere with their businesses. I will give you one good example of where this has happened. The fight against corruption affected ordinary business people because it was extended to a fight against fake goods, the importation of fake goods. So many entrepreneurs from this region had their containers impounded, stuck at the port, because they did not pass the Kenya Bureau of Standards certification, which has been tightened tremendously during the second term of the Uhuru Kenyatta presidency. That single policy of this government, which in my view was very good for the country, because the truth is, nobody will go anywhere with fake, low standard, low quality goods. Just ask our Tanzanian neighbors, who for years have been dealing with very cheap imports from China. This has crippled a lot of things in that country. Anyway, this particular policy had far-reaching political implications and consequences amongst our Mount Kenya brethren. And so the big concern amongst many of them is that if we are suffering like this, when one of our own is in State House, what will happen when somebody takes over from him who is not from our region? Will be finished. That is the major issue. And many times it is unspoken. Because the Kikuyu are gurus, at hiding from you what they are really thinking. And that is why the perception games being played in the Mount Kenya region by a certain presidential candidate, name withheld, mean absolutely zero. Because when we go to the polls in 2022, only after the results emerge will anybody really know what the Kikuyu are thinking. And of course, by then it will be too late to change a strategy for presidential candidate. It is interesting how the propagandists, especially online, have forced us to think in a certain way while ignoring the reality, especially to do with the Mount Kenya region. I even see today very respected analysts telling us that a certain candidate who is not from the region will get at the very least 50% of the vote from Mount Kenya. Really? Anybody who makes such a claim is a person who does not understand the House of Mumbi. Whatever you think of them, these are a people who are very politically aware, more politically aware than most of us. Again, because they started early, much earlier than us. They started in the 50s, in the 1940s, in the 1930s, when the rest of us were walking around without clothes and basking in the sun without a care in the world. And that is a fact. This life is such that when somebody starts early, they have a head start on you. There's nothing you can do about it. Of course you can catch up, but then you can do nothing about reversing history. When a people start something early, it is in their DNA. You can't remove their DNA. Even if you hate them with all you have, you can't change the facts. And that is why, in my view, it is impossible for a presidential candidate, not from the region, to come up with a watertight strategy to capture votes in the Mount Kenya region. Impossible. All you can do is try 1, 2, 3 things and hope for the best. In fact, if I was a presidential candidate, I would focus my resources elsewhere, and take it easy as far as my strategy is concerned over the Mount Kenya region. Any campaigns, any funds spent in this region, in my view, is gambling. And the odds are against you, 99%. As the powerful, very clever, very smart colonial government found out, just when you think you've outsmarted the Kikuyus, you find out they've actually outsmarted you. The colonial government did everything to put down the Kikuyu community, deny them educational opportunities until some people had to pretend they're Maasais to get scholarships abroad. They denied them business licenses. They denied them basic human rights, like movement from one area to another. They kept them locked up in reserves. They denied them land ownership, business ownership, etc., etc. But when Kenya gained her independence, that community, which had everything going against them, emerged as the dominant community in the country. Now, my thinking is not controlled by several young men seated in a room, spewing propaganda on social media. And so, because I'm not controlled by those fellows, I will say this. The BBI would have addressed a lot of these problems and concerns from the Mount Kenya region. But the 36 bloggers shot it down. Why? Because it would have made somebody a hero and unbeatable in the 2022 elections. That is the undiluted truth. Now, one of my dear subscribers and supporters here told me just yesterday that I should not worry. They were trying to encourage me. I should not worry because people don't like the truth. People want only what they like to hear. But unfortunately, most of the times in this life, the truth is hard to take. The truth is bitter. The truth is annoying. But it remains the truth. And for those who want the truth, I highly recommend my WIB, Weekly Intelligence Briefings, which I will tell you a little more about shortly. My advice to those who want to analyze 2022 politics, analyze the entire country. But Mount Kenya region, hiyo wachana naye, at least for now. Because even in the recent Kiambaa by-elections, somebody got 21,000 votes, just 500 votes short of victory. And yet in the same newspaper announcing these results, I saw a story that emphasized what is being peddled by the 36 bloggers, that a certain candidate has captured the entire region, who are going to vote for him almost to a man. What? Tell people lies if you must, but don't you think it is better to tell those lies at night? Not during the day when the sun is in the middle of the sky. Folks, humans are emotional beings. But when we analyze politics, when we think about politics, let's put emotions aside and focus on reality and the truth, the undiluted truth, like what you'll find in my weekly intelligence briefings. Just listen in briefly. Many times on this channel, I have described the upcoming 2022 general elections in Kenya with a Swahili very popular Kenyan expression as follows: Kimeumana kuumana. Oh yes. And maybe many on this channel have not been able to fully understand what I'm really driving at. What is the worst that can happen? What can really happen? What is this that kimeumana, kuumana? Really, what is it? I know many of you are asking. In my latest weekly intelligence briefings number 60, I cover one of these areas that is really scary about our upcoming elections. And it is a trend that we have seen very clearly from the last two elections, the last two general elections. Of course, I'm talking about 2013 and 2017. It is a trend that is deadly, to say the least. Before the 2013 general elections, we had the death from a helicopter crash of the late Professor George Saitoti, who, by the way, had already announced that he was vying for the presidency of the Republic of Kenya. But was it really an ordinary helicopter crash? There is a lot of information in the public domain that suggests it was not. And I covered this in great detail in weekly intelligence briefings number 60. Now, let me give you another quick example. In the run-up to the 2017 general elections, indeed very close to those elections, about a month before those elections, the CS internal at the time, a man called Joseph Kaiseri, suddenly passed on from what we were told was a heart attack. A sudden heart attack just before the general elections. And then we had the still unsolved mystery of the gruesome murder of IEBC computer guru, the late Kshs. In my view, the stakes were very high in 2013. They were higher in the 2017 elections. And they're highest, a lot higher, in the 2022 upcoming general elections. Now, there are details which unfortunately I cannot share on this public channel that are included in my WAB number 60 that will just blow your mind. No kidding, no exaggerating. And on this channel, it is our tradition to analyze our politics in our beloved country a lot more deeply than many others do. I'm not saying we're the best. I'm not bragging. But we make an effort to analyze politics very deeply. And therefore, the analysis of this highly sensitive area, must be done. Otherwise, we will be cheating our subscribers and indeed our fans and followers if we somehow leave it out conveniently from our deep analysis, because it is all part of the upcoming Kimeumana Kuumana 2022 general elections. Now, times are hard. There's no doubt about that. And many of you, my beloved fans and followers of this channel, may many times feel that you're being left out because of the relatively high cost of being a weekly intelligence briefings subscriber. But I have great news for you today. For the next 4 days, from the day this video was published, you will be able to become a temporary subscriber for the weekly intelligence briefings for 2 whole months for only 9.95 Kenya shillings or $9.95. This has been the special offer for a monthly subscription, but now you can get 2 months. And even for those who your subscription has expired, you can now extend it for 2 whole months for only $9.95 or Kenya shillings 9.95 only. Go for it. I'm afraid you only have 4 days. In my opinion, the current special offer for a whole year and even for lifetime subscription, you never need to pay again, is also very reasonable, very low. So please take advantage. This offer will not remain forever. Indeed, it is going to end very soon, if I can give you a heads up. Those who normally pray for a lovely, beloved motherland, I urge you to step up your prayers concerning our next general elections. Until next time, this is Kshs. Kumekucha.